Hello, today I'm going to share with you 3 essential tips you need to know before you publish that book. But first of all, if you're new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button. Who am I? My name is Daniela Blechner. I am an author, book journey mentor, founder of a company called Conscious Dreams Publishing. We work with authors from all over the world to help them to get their powerful messages and stories out there in the form of professional books. So behind me here are just some of the 70+ books that we have published over the last 4 years. I'm absolutely passionate about doing what I do, offering a platform for unseen, unheard authors to get their voices heard, stories shared, so they can educate, inspire and empower for generations to come. I believe everyone has a unique story and message inside, and it's so important to think about the things that you need to make sure that you have in place before you even publish that book. Whenever I offer some of my free 30-minute consultations, quite often I speak to authors who have already published before, and one of the questions I ask them is, what have you done with the book? You know, how many books have you sold? And quite often I get, well, not very many. And I ask them, well, what have you done to market or promote your book? What have you done alongside your book? And quite often I'll get nothing. You know, obviously if you don't promote your book, if you don't market your book, if you don't create a vision for your book, then your book isn't going to just magically sell itself. So these are the 3 things that you really need to know before you even start. Number 1 is know your why. What do I mean by know your why? Your why is your inspiration, your purpose, your passion behind writing this book. Why have you written this book? Serial entrepreneur Simon Sinek, he is a man who advises conglomerate companies such as Apple. He helps them to really understand why they do what they do. He says people buy people. He is a firm believer that people buy why you do something, not what you do. Here's an example. He uses the analogy of reading. So when he went to school, he was told by his teachers that he must read this classic. And he wasn't somebody who enjoyed reading. He didn't like reading. It's not something he wanted to do. And he kept asking his teachers the number 1 question that children always ask: why do I need to read this book? And this teacher couldn't give an answer. Therefore, he wasn't interested in reading the book. It wasn't until he got older and he started to seek mentors because he wanted to improve his business. And the mentors would start with the why. They would say, do you want to learn how to make greater connections, how to have a flourishing business and develop relationships that are really meaningful? Of course, his answer was yes. Okay, now we go to the how. Well, you need to read this book. What is this book? This book is called How to Win Friends and Influence People. So when you start with the why, the heart of why this book has been created, that is what's going to get people to get to the what. Here's an example. My book is called Mr. Wrong. If you watched my last video, I spoke about this book. My why of this book is very strong because I'm passionate about it. So if I'm talking about this book, I don't just say, hey, buy Mr. Wrong. I tell you why I wrote it. Why did I write this book? Because I wanted to unite, inspire and empower women, give us a platform where we could share our stories, where we could laugh at the funny dating disaster stories, where we could also self-reflect, where we could examine, discover, challenge limiting belief systems that we might have about ourselves, relationships, men. Yeah, that was my fundamental reason behind writing this book. I also found that there were so many books out there, relationship books written for women, telling us how to be, what to wear, what to say, how to play games in instances in order to get a man, but nothing that told us how to love ourselves truly, how the power of forgiveness plays a role in being able to break away from our limiting belief systems and patterns which create things that we bring into our world. There wasn't any books out there that taught us about how to love ourselves, self-love, the power of intention setting, visualizing, understanding what our needs, wants and desires are, understanding deeply what our values are and standing by them. So I wanted to create a book that united us, but also gave a bit of insight to men as well. And because I was so passionate about my why, I knew that when opportunities came into my sphere, I knew which ones were in alignment with my why and my message. Here's an example. When this book came out, I had quite a well-known women's magazine approach me, and they said, we hear that you've written a book called Mr. Wrong. They hadn't read the book, but we'd like to interview you in this magazine. Now, this magazine would have put me in front of a huge demographic. It was a mainstream platform. And I said, okay, so what is it that you need me to do for this interview? And they said, can you send us in pictures of you and your exes with their faces pixelated, basically selling stories, sharing stories about, you know, horrible things that may have happened. And I knew instantly that although, yes, this might be great in terms of building an audience and, you know, selling books, number one, is it going to be the right audience? Number two, is in integrity and in alignment with what my why is. My book is not about slating people. It's not about berating people. It's about self-learning. It's about evolving. It's about understanding each other as men and women. And it's about celebrating success stories and celebrating self-growth and personal growth and transformation. So it was so not about, you know, selling salacious stories. And on top of that, I don't have pictures of me and my exes. So I knew that that opportunity was not in alignment with me. Knowing your why is so important. Your why is what's going to connect you to your reader, you to your message, and opportunities to your book, the right opportunities to your book. Knowing your why is fundamental. Number two is to know your audience. So important. So many times when I'm offering my free 30-minute consultations, I'll speak to people, and one of the questions is always, who's your ideal reader? Who is this book for? And so often I get the same answer many times, and that is everybody. Your book is never for everybody. You do your core target audience a huge disservice by placing them in a bracket of everybody. Now, it's not to say that anybody can't read your book, but when we say everyone, we place everyone into one big lump sum. Another thing I get from here when I say this is I get, okay, women, and that's great, but let's be specific. What type of women? What age group are we looking at? You know, the language you'd use, the way you'd speak to an 18-year-old is going to be completely different to how you might speak to a 30-year-old or a 65-year-old. What we've gone through are our experiences in life, and even the way we speak and the language we use, it changes. So it's so important that we know how to connect and speak to, communicate with that specific audience. Okay. Also think about, you know, what belief systems do they have? What period in life are they at the moment? Are they going through a transition? Are they new mothers? Are they in a new relationship? Are they, you know, corporate women in a job full of men? Okay, trying to seek your place in this male dominated world. Are you a newlywed? What are their interests? What books do they like to read? What magazines do they get? Because knowing these things is really going to help you when you eventually get out there and market your book. Yeah, knowing where your audience are is so key. Because if you're doing speaking engagements off the back of your book, you want to start going to speaking events where your audience is going to be. And if you don't know who your audience is, you're almost like chucking a product or chucking something out there, hoping that someone's going to catch it. You've got to be intentional about making sure you're creating something that is going to connect with your ideal reader. Really important. Number three is create a vision. What do I mean by creating a vision? I'm not just talking about, you know, what does your book look like? What's your cover like? It's creating a bigger idea, a bigger plan, okay? So here's an example here. This is a book written by one of our authors back into 2017, actually, earlier on in our journey, called Your Happy Child, written by Usha Chudasama, who is a child and adult psychologist. So the tagline here is 10 proven steps to raising a happy child. Really clear and concise in terms of what the book is about. Now, what she's done is she's built an online course built around these 10 proven steps, 10 modules. This online course now is something that is taught in schools. So she's got a 10-week course program built around this. She does one-to-one coaching. She works with parents and guardians and teachers, all based around the theories based in this book. So not just throwing a book out there, but thinking about the bigger vision for the book. Your book, especially if you're writing from a business perspective, or if you're using your book to leverage your business or to establish yourself as an authority in your field, your book needs to be a marketing tool that leads your audience to somewhere else. So having a bigger vision is so important. It's the same with another transformational coach that we've worked with called Gosha Gorna. She created an amazing modality called the expansion game, which helps people to release their fear and transform it into their greatest brilliance. She has a one-day amazing seminar based around this technique called the expansion game, in which of course she uses examples from her book. She has an online course around this. She has speaking engagements based on the expansion game. So you can create your brands through your book. Your book is a marketing tool. It's not just something you can sell as a one-off. It can be if that's your intention. Some people write because they want to have a book that is a family heirloom, or it's something that they want to prove they've done. It's a huge accomplishment. But if you want to have a successful book, and especially if you're writing one to establish yourself as an authority in your field, you've got to have a bigger vision for your book. Another example here is my sister, Francesca Blechner, who's written Self-Care for Life in the City. She's a holistic health and well-being coach. Based off this, she's going to be running events. She does one-to-one coaches. She's got health and well-being packages based on the modalities that she has focused in this book. So having a bigger vision for this. At the moment, she's lining herself up with some interesting speaking engagements in the health and wellness industry. It's also a really good idea to find JVs, joint ventures, people that you can work with. Find people who are of a similar on a similar mission to yourself, or have a similar vision, but not exactly the same. So for example, with my sister, she speaks about transformational breathing, nutrition, yoga, looking after your mind, body and soul. So she could find somebody who maybe is a juicer, or does something that works towards nourishing your mind, body and soul, but isn't necessarily, following exactly the same things in her book. So she could team up with one of these people and do one of these health and wellness coaches and do a joint webinar together, or do a joint event, or even do an interview with each other. What is the benefit of that? The benefit of that is you get to leverage from each other's audiences, feature each other in each other's newsletters, introducing new people to your platform. So you're both working towards a bigger vision, and your audience is going to be similar, but you're offering something different. So JVs are really, really good things to do as well. Think about speaking engagements. Go on to sites like Eventbrite or Just Tickets and find out about events that are happening near you, or it doesn't have to be near you. It's great to travel out as well, but find events that are going on that will have your target audience there and ready. Go there, meet the host, ask them if they're planning on doing something regularly, ask them when their next event is, ask if you can come along and be a speaker and speak about the themes in your book, or sell your book, or have a stall, have an exhibition there. So think big. Think about retailers. Now, it's a holy grail to get your book into a retailer, but it is more than possible. We've got some of our authors into Waterstones, Dulwich Books and other bookshops, so it's more than possible. So make a list, starting local, then you go national, then you go global. But make a list of 10 retailers that you'd like to get your book into. I'm going to do another video on exactly how you can get into retailers. But start making a list and start contacting people and letting them know that your book's coming, so that you're building and establishing a relationship. Think about the kind of press you want to get as well. Look for articles or journalists, do a bit of stalking. People who write about the subjects that you write about. Connect with them, talk to them, See if you can get yourself some press before your book comes out. Have a press release. Again, I'll do another video on how to get your book into a press as well. There's so much to think about when it comes to your book. You know, what kind of organisations do you want to affiliate yourself with? Do you might want to get sponsorships from a particular organisation in alignment to your book? You know, can they come and speak at your book launch, for example? Yeah, in exchange for advertising your book within their organisation. So it's so important. It's like having a baby. You plan beforehand, buying the clothes before it's born, buying the cot, buying the stroller, buying the baby wrap, okay? So it's the same with the book. Thinking about the book's life before it's even born so that you're ready, you're prepared, you've got a strategy and you've got a vision. So those are my 3 top tips to consider before you start writing your book. I hope that was helpful. If there are any questions, make sure that you pop them in the comments below. I will get back to them. You can also book a free 30-minute consultation with me and the link is in the description. Hope that's been helpful. Have an awesome day.